Film is one of the several art forms and mediums that we encounter in our daily lives. There have been romantic, science fiction, crime, action, comedy, documentary, and biographical films, just to name a few. However, for most of us, our interaction with film does not go too far beyond the enjoyment of the finished product. But one individual, who never began with a high interest in film, was introduced to the world behind the camera and has been fascinated ever since. Richard Brown was introduced to the world of filmmaking by a friend during his freshman year at the University of Portland. Though he did not put a tremendous amount of effort into it, he had discovered quite a fondness for this art form.
So I would suggest that you want to, really do some research on early filmmakers, all the way back to Russian filmmakers from the 19 teens, silent films, really learn the craft of filmmaking from its origins, narrative cinema. You may also want to branch out into conceptual video art, because that has a wide breadth of takes on what it means to make a film from other disciplines.
Toward the end of his second semester at UP, he was introduced to actor and friend Devin White, where the two of them made a film together. Richard's very first experience filming, directing, editing, and even acting. By no means was it a great film. There were many problems with it, from editing to acting performances on Richard's part, to even shot composition. But we must remember, this was the first time he'd ever tried anything like this, and even with the faults in his first film, he's proud of what he was able to accomplish with the help of only two people.
Oh, he's great. He's always been a very kind, nice guy to me, and I'm glad I met him. I was actually looking over a film we did a few years ago called The Last Drop, and I was watching it, and it was actually very well edited. I'd say he's a nice, confident, caring man who really wants to film. It's very hard to find people in the filmmaking or acting process who do have the time or the ambition to film, and I would say he's definitely a guy that if you need him, he's going to be there for you. And I would say that Richard Brown will fit in really well in the filmmaking area, and I think that he's got the ambition and the focus and confidence to make it as a filmmaker. I think as a short filmmaker, as a big budget filmmaker, I definitely would agree with that statement. Yeah, Richard Brown's a great guy. I'd like to see him move forward and do other films. I mean, I've made a few films with him, and they came out great. Yeah, there's hiccups, but at least he's learning, and he's getting out there, and he's trying new things, and he's failing, and he's learning from the failures. He's getting better and better every day.
As his second year came around, Richard met a freshman in one of his classes who was an adamant movie buff. He loved movies, but never tried to make one.
When I started to kind of really analyze the power of film and look at them a bit more deeply, that was probably when I was towards the end of junior high and high school. And then, of course, when I met Mr. Brown in my freshman year of college at University of Portland, he came with me with the proposal of forming the University Film Club production. And we had talked about it, and I originally didn't know whether or not this was a good route to go, but then after some quick deliberation and thought, I thought, I love film, and I wanted to see if I can add something in more contributions of making film, and maybe I might have a talent for it.
After the creation of the Film Club, both Richard and Matthew worked to make the club viable. Though they have not fully succeeded, this has not trumped their love for film. Their first attempt at a student-made film came to fruition with their short film, Azrael, starring Devin White. However, once production of the film concluded, they quickly discovered several aspects of filmmaking that they took for granted. One such aspect was lighting.
When our first film that we completed, Azrael, we were very inexperienced, and both him and I were inexperienced. I wrote the screenplay. I was the boom operator, and one of our other colleagues, Rachel, was there along with Patrick Bolt and our other star in the film, Devin, and he probably had the most experience out of all of us. But I would say Richard was very pliable and was able to fit into positions whenever I needed him, and he was competent enough as a director, and as an actor, he did the job very well.
Nevertheless, this has not completely discouraged them from filmmaking, especially not Richard. But with responsibility to graduate on time and with acceptable grades, filmmaking has been pushed aside, to the point where it is less than a hobby and more of an interest. But film is still a passion for Richard, though he is unable to get side projects going as he would like. When an opportunity arises to utilize all the skills he has learned regarding filmmaking, he jumps on the opportunity.
Filmmaking, I think, is an incredibly collaborative effort. It is not one person, definitely not one man's vision. As an art form overall, I think there's a long way for the medium to go in terms of creating parity within those groups. I would stress, learning the craft, being really interested in the craft, learning software to a lesser degree, but really organizing your thoughts, organizing your concepts, and I think that approach really does help. The people I think that succeed in filmmaking really take those ideas to heart and really build relationships based upon good work ethic and a knowledge of filmmaking that is really deep and profound.